We might get things underway. So firstly, g'day and welcome again to everyone joining from right around the country. We've got people from all over Australia joining today, which is good to see. Just share my screen here. Okay. So this is the second of a three-part series today, focused on the livestock reconciliation process within AgriWebb. My name's Munro Hardy, and I'll be your host here today from AgriWebb, but also from AgriWebb. I've got Jody Davis joining me in the workshop, as well as Dave O'Brien again, who will be facilitating discussion and questions in the background as we go along today. So here's our agenda, what we're going to run through. Firstly, I'm going to introduce you to a cattle producer from Queensland, who some of you might know. Which will then be followed by a quick recap of our previous session from last week with two of the country's leading advisors, Ian McLean and John Francis. And then we'll hear from our guest speaker today, who will give us a few insights into their operation and how they approach their livestock reconciliation process. Then I'll hand over to Jody to take us through in a bit more detail the records that relate to the reconciliation report and how you can keep all of that within AgriWebb. And then again, to finish off, we will have some time for questions at the end. So please feel free to write your questions in the chat or the Q&A as we go. And also feel free just to say good day, tell us a little about yourself and where you're joining us from. It'd be great to hear from you. So, as I mentioned, I've got Jody Davis joining me today in the workshop. Jody's joining us from down in the Hilltops region of New South Wales. Jody's part of our magnificent farm success team here at AgriWebb, and she's working remotely on the farm. So g'day, Jody. Thanks for joining me. Can you tell us a bit about yourself, what you're doing there on the farm and your role here at AgriWebb?
Yeah, thanks, Munro. Hi, and welcome to everyone that's joining us live today. As Munro mentioned, I joined the farm success team here at AgriWebb 3 months ago and am working remotely. My studies and experience have mainly been focused on agribusiness and animal nutrition. So I'm a great advocate for having accurate records to measure and help with decision making, alongside also being out in the paddocks to actually get the work done. So there's always plenty happening in a mixed farming enterprise. So hopefully after today, we'll show you how to quickly and easily enter your records into AgriWebb after hearing the why it's important, which was addressed in last week's webinar.
Beauty, thanks, Jody. It's great to have you with us here today. Hear a bit about you. Now, you've only been with us 3 months, so we are throwing you in the deep end here. But Jody obviously comes from an agricultural background or has lots of experience throughout the industry, much like a lot of our team here at AgriWebb. We've got a fantastic bunch who are all very passionate about helping our customers succeed with their adoption of AgriWebb. So please feel free to reach out if you need, get in touch whenever with our team. And now I am delighted to introduce you to one of our fantastic clients who's joining us from up near Alpha in Queensland. Anna Appleton runs a successful beef cattle enterprise with properties across central Queensland, and I've asked her to join us today to shed a bit of light on how she's developed a successful livestock reconciliation process and what that means for their business. So g'day and welcome, Anna. Thanks for joining us. Can you tell us a little bit about you and your background, and perhaps a bit about the Appleton Cattle Company journey so far?
So we're based in central Queensland, from Alpha up until our most northern places up near Hewenden. So we operate across multiple properties and run a herd of a bit over 40,000 head. Organic. And we're a family-based operation. So we manage the southern end and the fattening and marketing end of the business, and other family members, run the northern and breeding side of things.
Yeah, terrific. And Anna, being organic, no doubt there's quite a bit of record keeping involved in that operation.
Yes, definitely, which is one of the big factors of why we swapped to AgriWebb in the first place, was to help with our recording and record keeping.
Oh, terrific. Well, that's great. Thanks, Anna. Looking forward to hearing a bit more about your operation and the system you've developed. But before we do, might just quickly recap what we ran through in our previous session last week with Ian and John. So, John, we had joining us from down in Wagga. And in that past session, we focused on the why it's important to have accurate numbers for your business. And both of these guys raised some very powerful points for why this is important. John mentioned that it's fundamental to all your business analysis. You can't understand business performance without it. So these are some of the points that he raised, and he ran through some of the metrics as well of business measurement, KPIs, to look at things like your gross profit, operating return, return on assets, managed, and so on. That your livestock rec process and having accurate numbers is fundamental to knowing all of these metrics within your business. And Ian spoke about a couple of similar points as well, but he also raised that having an effective system in place is also key to understanding your numbers. So being able to delegate the work to actually record the data that you need to do this, and building good habits within a team to maintain your accurate numbers. He also spoke about a couple of metrics that are really important for business and analysing your performance. And so we saw a couple of similar themes there of why this is really, really important for you to be able to manage effectively. And what we're going to try and do today is to show you how you can do that within AgriWebb and give you the simplest process to be able to do that. So, Anna, I might ask you a few questions about your process, if you don't mind, with AgriWebb and your system. Can you tell us firstly a bit about your journey with AgriWebb? You mentioned you joined to help with your record keeping process, but what's been your approach to building that into an effective system into your business?
I think it's been, so we've been with AgriWebb for quite a number of time, and I guess the initial came from, the old paper records, everybody having a bit of a different system on different properties and how they're recording and constantly, chasing up information when I need it. And so, our approach was that we needed something that's in real time, that we can access the data when we need it. It's not waiting for people to constantly be providing with details and data and eventually getting around to entering it. And it's I think it's still a work in progress for us. We've definitely come a long way from where we started, and I think there's a lot more that I know that it can do for us. But it is a process of getting everyone on board and using it in the correct manner and the way we want it to, and probably them understanding the importance of why we're using it and why we need that data.
Absolutely, that's pretty critical, isn't it? I see a lot of people that do collect data on site, but they don't really have an end goal in place in what they want to achieve with that data. So is that been a big focus for you now?
Yeah, it definitely is. And I know there's a lot of data you can collect that's obviously of interest, and it's always whether it's actually useful at the end of the day. And it's been a bit of a process for us to probably get AgriWebb working in the way that we want to use it and can actually draw the data out that we need. So which has been great, and that's one of the spots where we have it now, that it's it has got to a point where I can really easily access the data that I need for financial and reporting purposes.
And so how often are you reporting or producing reports from AgriWebb, financial reports? Is that for accounting purposes, or is that sort of for your own management system, just to understand your performance?
I would like to say we're doing it on the spot every quarter. That is my aim, that we do it quarterly. It does vary a little bit there depending on what's happening and where we're at, but sometimes it's a little bit shorter than that too. It just depends where we're at and what's happening in the business at the time. But yeah, the aim is every quarter. And yes, quarter is probably just purely to make sure that we're on top of things, that records are getting done, and double checking that all the work is getting processed and transfers are happening, and also ensuring that those categories of cattle are being transferred up as they age out and things like that. But otherwise, financially, it's at the end of the year, recording, and also for our auditing purposes with organics and animal welfare programs that we're reporting when we're doing our auditing.
Absolutely. You mentioned there aging up through those age classes. That's an important piece as well, then, to really understand your carrying capacity, but what you're carrying currently. And so that then, of course, will flow into your grazing load reports, and then enable you to develop more accurate sort of feed budgets, which hopefully Jody might touch on briefly today as well. When you say you're trying to do that quarterly and keep on top just to make sure things are being done, have you delegated data collection to your staff to manage that process?
Yes, we have. So with the multi-property that we have, we generally have, there's one main person for each property, but where we are currently, where we're based, we actually have multiple properties all boundarying together. So we have high numbers and high turnover here. So we have a few of the guys here who also use it as well. And that is a bit of a work in progress. I guess some are great and some have adapted and some have adopted it very well, and very keen to learn and are happy to kind of I guess tackle it head on and get into it. Others are a little bit more tech shy, I suppose you should say, and so it is a bit of a work in progress for some of them.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's, I suppose, a familiarity with the product and being comfortable in creating those records and almost repetition and developing those good habits. When do you collect that data? Do you do that as it happens in the paddock, as you're drafting in the yards, or is it sort of done on reflection in time?
Generally, I push for them all to do it, on the day, use it like pretend it's your notebook, throw away your notebook and use the AgriWebb app instead, which is absolutely great. I mean, I love the fact that, for the ones that do that, they can use it. It doesn't have to be online, so it doesn't matter where you are, what yards you're working at. You can kind of enter that data and it will just upload whenever you're back in service. There is a couple of the guys that still like their notebook and record it and then come back and do it again when they're home that evening, so generally we try and encourage just do it on the day, that evening, you get it done, so it's all it's all fresh, it's all done, and it literally is up to date. Most are getting better with our training and going through it and that sort of thing, and whether it's not on the day, it's within a few days or within a week sort of thing of that stuff being uploaded.
Yeah, fantastic. And you mentioned before trying to sort of work away from the pen and paper. Are you finding it's a quick and easy process for them? Is it much of a burden through the day to be able to put that data in?
I don't think so. Look, I think I know the guys all. One of the things that we do with our paddocks and obviously working on such a mob-based system, we have our yard set up as a separate paddock, so just off to the side, and so when they're mustering, it's sort of like they just empty out a paddock and put it in the yards when they've done that, and then from there, as they're turning out in the afternoon and things like that, they can just grab those mobs and update them as they're going and as they're turning them out.
Fantastic. Oh, that's good to hear. I see just on the chat here briefly a few guys singing out saying g'day. Ben Somerset from Tamworth, g'day to you. James Wright, g'day mate, good to see you on here, and Ray as well, Ray Theme, good to have you here joining us too. Now, and a couple more questions I've got for you here. Are you using any of those metrics to analyze your business that we mentioned before in the previous session, from your stock rec, to look at things like operating and gross profit and return on assets managed, pardon me. Any of those business metrics that we've mentioned in the past?
Yeah, so we, definitely operating profit, all that sort of thing. I mean, our numbers do play a big part in all of those, and pretty much all of those things that you've mentioned there. Around the, feed budgets and labour and efficiency, that sort of thing, that's probably, areas that we could work on. And I know it is actually possible there in AgriWebb with your feed budgeting and all that sort of thing to put in there, and that is one of the areas that I think we can definitely improve on and do a bit more training with the guys on how to manage that side of it. But in terms of financial, it's definitely a big part of our business and reflecting, and also going forward, having those accurate records and accurate birthing and pregnancy rates and things like that, moving forward and budgeting for the years to come, it's definitely a big factor.
Of course, yeah, absolutely. And do you use this when talking to or engaging with external stakeholders like your accountant or your banker, for example?
Yes, so we use these reports directly. As we've got 4 farms, I think it is, set up with the AgriWebb. So it's great that we can just print out that livestock rec and have a 12-month flow of cattle to see what's coming and going, where they're going between the properties, what's sort of happening, and even on a long term, I think on another, angle, I find it a great tool for those who aren't directly involved in the business, so at our management and board level, who aren't directly involved in the everyday running. It is a great tool to be able to look at constantly the different places, and they can sort of say, well, and pick up that, these places have been running less over these periods and different times, and highlighting, the different carrying capacities and things like that in different circumstances, in the dry or the wet, or it sort of highlights, I suppose, for people that don't have a great understanding of what's happening each day.
Yeah, oh, fantastic. That's great. And are you sitting down with them to show them, or are you actually giving access to your account so that they can do it remotely whenever they like?
No, so at the moment we don't have access. Only, I don't know if you guys have, I know I haven't probably looked at, your user at the moment, how the users, but I know there a while ago we looked at it, and because the access is, you couldn't obviously just restrict them to view only without mucking around and, tampering with any of the numbers and that sort of thing. We've left, that off, but I think that would be a great tool in terms of for you guys to have, access, that people can just look, but they can't touch and can't,
Absolutely, that's been raised a couple of times, and we are sort of growing our user access roles. We've been developing them over time. We've got quite a few now where you can actually set user roles to have access only to the web app, so you would only see the reports available in the web app, and you can't actually change any stock numbers on the farm map, or vice versa, only give access just to the mobile app, so they don't actually have access to the financial reports and so on. So that's a great point you raise, and hopefully we can in time get there so that we can give you that read-only access role. A few more comments coming in here now, but great to hear from everyone who's joining us too. So please feel free, say g'day, tell us where you're from. But Anna, thank you very much for sharing your experience with us and your journey with AgriWebb so far. I think you're a great example and a great leader in this space, and I've very much enjoyed following your journey with us to date, and looking forward to continuing in years to come. But I might now just hand over to Jody so that she can share a screen and show us some of the records that we've just been talking about that relate to the stock rec. We're going to be walking through some of the records in 2 stages. This session is going to be focused on the production records within AgriWebb. And then our 3rd and final session, which we'll be running next week, will be focusing on the transactional records. So Jody, I might hand over to you now and let you share your screen.
Yes, thank you, Munro, and awesome question with Anna there. That was great. So I'll just share my screen. Awesome. So you guys can see my map there?
Looks good, Jody. Yep.
All right, so I'll try and go nice and slow. If anyone has any questions, please use the chat and we will continue on from there. So here I'm going to show you how to interpret the livestock reconciliation report and also understand each column, what it is referring to and where it's pulling from in your day-to-day records that you've entered in AgriWebb. So to navigate to the livestock reconciliation report, we'll go to reports. Under livestock activity production reports, we've got our livestock reconciliation report. So here, this is the format that will automatically display. So there's a few options that we can customize our report here. So first of all, the most important one is our date range up the top, where we can select the period that we want to analyze for our opening and closing. So for this, I'm just going to choose last month. So I'm going for September 1st, closing September 30th for my livestock rec report. My other options here are to customize columns. So these are where I can select in and out of the columns that I want to see. So this column here is our grouping values. So I might not want to see my farm and I don't want to view my mobs. I'm going to save. So this is where it's removed the column of my farm and also the column of my management tags. So it's just grouped my lines here by management tag and also age class and tag color.
Jody, are you able to just make that a little bit bigger with your Command Plus?
Yep.
There we go. That looks better. Thanks.
Is that better? Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to go through each column that's here in our values column. You can tick and select what you would like to see in your report. So our first column here is obviously starting head. So that is the number of head within that mob that is on September 1st for the date range that we've selected here. So our bought head is any purchase records that we've placed within AgriWebb. Our bred head is any marking records that we've popped in, or if we've added a mob of a purchase within that time frame. So as we can see, these calves here, we placed a marking record within September for 61 head. Our next column here, which is aged in and out, is so say if weaning has occurred, there will be an age class difference between calves and weaners, or any other edits associated with adjusting the age class of the mob. So we can see here the aged out, these guys, Angus calves, are aged out 56 head, have now aged in 56 head, which are now Angus weaners. So that's demonstrating a weaning record that has been applied. So our next columns here are management tags changed in and out. So if we have changed a management tag here for a mob, it will show it within these columns here. Our sold head is any sale records that have been placed for mobs. Our condemned column is any loss during transport from the sale record. So when you're placing a sale record for a mob, there will be the option to place any condemned head that have potentially died during transport. Our deaths column is when you place a death record on a mob. Our edits column is if you've performed any recounts on a mob. So you may have counted the mob as 47 head, realize that when they're back in the paddock or have done a recount that there's actually 48. So you may perform a recount on that mob and that will show as an edit. Our next columns are transferred on and off. So if you have multiple farms on the account and transfer the mobs between your farms on AgriWebb, that will show here. So as we can see, we've transferred 15 head off this farm and we've also received 5 head. Our next column here is our closing head. So it's taking into consideration our starting head, our potential solds, deaths, and resulting in your closing head for the period of September, which is ending September 30th. Our next columns here are also your starting load DSE and also your starting and closing kilos. So I'll show you in a minute how to update your DSE load rating for each mob, which we'll pull through and display here. So other options to view this report would be to come up here and group by. So we can choose between type, breed, age class, tag, or management tag. So say if we wanted to class by type, it will show us bulls, cattle, sheep, and rams if there were rams within this, and also the subtotals for each age class. So from here, we can then also, just demonstrating again, if we wanted to remove management tag, we'll remove the management tag and just have the mobs listed as green tag bulls or orange tag bulls. So that's, we've also got our export and print options here that you can do for this livestock rec report. And then you also have the option for your filter all column if you were trying to look for anything in particular on this and pull up bulls. Or we might want to look at just calves. So that has broken down our livestock rec report there. If we don't have any pressing questions on those, we might just keep moving on, and we'll take a look how to change your age class, your management tag, and your animal unit settings within AgriWebb. So for age class and your management tags, you have 2 options to edit and change these fields. We can edit through going to your livestock map, selecting the mob, viewing its details. We go edit details. And here we can select our age class and also our management tag option. This is a free text field that we can choose. And I will also show you in a moment where we can install a drop-down bottom with predefined management tags here. So our second option to edit these details would be through the livestock list. So we can also on this list, we can filter customize columns or group by. So we might want to group by age class or search up the top. We know that we're wanting to choose our calves. So that's just pulled up our 1 mob of calves that we have got. I'm going to press on the name, which is underlined. And this brings us through to the page that we were at before, straight to the livestock's, the mob summary, sorry. And we can go edit details and update your age class and also your management tag. So while we're here on our livestock list, I'm going to show you how you also can bulk update your DSE rating. So for our bulls, I'm going to select all my mobs of bulls, come up to the top where it says update selected mobs DSE. And here is where we can type in the required DSE that we would like to update.
That's great, Jody. Thank you. I see we've got a couple of questions coming through, and while you're there in the report, we've got an anonymous question. Can you export the data into Excel? Would you mind showing us quickly how you could do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So for all our pages, it is the same, in the same position and same actions. So we've got our print and our export. So once we have the required fields that we are wanting to export, you just simply press the export on the top right, which will export this into a CSV file.
Terrific, thank you. We also had a question from Gordon a few minutes ago asking, did I hear that correctly, that data can be entered when offline or out of service and will upload when back in service? Yes, absolutely correct, Gordon. AgriWebb works entirely offline. We've got all the data saved on your mobile device so that you can enter data, any information while you're in the paddock as you're working. So yes, 100% offline.
Awesome. Okay, so from here, yeah, this is our livestock list. We have updated our mobs DSC ratings. We will now show you how to set your management tags as predefined and also your animal units. So if you do not want to record in Drive DSC, we can change that. We'll go to account, which is down the bottom on your left menu panel. Farm management. This is where you'll list the farms that are listed under your account. We'll go to edit, settings. Here is where we're going to select animal units. So as you can see here, I have selected dry sheep equivalent. So DSE rating is my measurement that I want to use as my animal units. We also have the option to choose between adult equivalent and LSU. So mob management tags down the bottom here is where you can select use predefined management tags. So this is where I might, throughout my seasonal calendar, I'm going to use twins and so on. So these are where you will no longer have a free text field for your management tags. It will be a drop down and it will be these allocated management tags that you can select from. So using management tags is very handy and useful for something that's reserved, something specific or unique throughout the season. Keeping in mind that if you are to merge a mob, your management tag, tag color, breed, and age class all are required to be the same. So if you are merging your mobs of ewes that are singles, if you have applied a singles management tag to one mob, you will also need to have the singles management tag on the other or it removed.
Jody, we've got another couple of questions coming in.
Great.
Ray Theme is asking, can you run a livestock rec report by paddock? There are a couple of ways we can do that, Ray, that might work for you, but I just wondered, Jody, if you might like to just quickly run through the livestock activity by paddock report.
Yep, absolutely. So we'll go back to reports. So under our production reports, livestock activity, we have our livestock activity by paddock report. So this is where it will be the same display, same options, choose your date range, customize columns, and group by. But we have our paddock column here. So as we can see, grouping values, we've got the option for paddock. And this will show these two mobs are both in this paddock. Your other option here is to group by paddock, which will also give you a further breakdown by paddock. Hopefully that's shown and answered the question there, Munro, for you.
I think so. Thanks, Jody. Yep, that's what I was hoping to show. Rhonda's asking as well, how do we work out grazing days? Could you show us that at a paddock level?
Yeah, sure. So this is back to reports. We're going to go to grazing intensity report. And this is where we're pulling through. So we've got our paddocks, our livestock load, so our DSE rating by day, our DSE rating day by hectare, our days grazed, our days empty, and therefore the percentage that this paddock has been grazed within this time frame that we have selected. So this is where it sort of highlights the importance to really keep updating your DSE ratings, as we showed how to bulk update on the livestock list, which is easily done as you move through your management calendar.
Absolutely, good point. Thanks, Jody. David is asking if there's any way to keep the left-hand columns fixed on the screen while scrolling right. That's a great point, David, and that has been raised. Our dev team is aware of that, and we are working towards being able to lock that that panel so that it'll stay present while you're looking at that report and scrolling through those different columns. So thank you, great question. Martin asks, tag color relates to birth year. Is there any way to export year of birth to Excel to check flock age? So I imagine that would be a matter of customizing columns, Jody, just to reflect tag color and then sort of minimize the columns exposed so that then you can export that report as it's presented.
Yeah, sorry, Mani, could you repeat the question? Was it, I'm just thinking, are we best to go from our livestock list report? Was he wanting a report by tag color or?
Yeah, I think so. So birth year, is there any way to export year of birth to Excel to check flock age by year of birth? So I think the easiest way, I suppose, is through that tag color. And we do capture a date of birth for those mobs as well. And maybe, Jody, can you show if we can expose that? Martin's asking by a year of birth as a number.
Yeah, so I feel that the best method of approach here might be to, from your livestock list report potentially, or your livestock rec report. So we might want to group by age class. And also, hang on, we're going to group by tag. So then that shows all your mobs that are green tags, etc., reflecting the age. As, yeah, he's correct. Usually you would put the correct tag color that resembles the year of birth.
Another way of doing that too, which I often work with some producers up north who, with working with cattle, their year brand is a really important field to note. And so there's a couple of custom fields that you can use. So management tag's obviously a great one, but I probably wouldn't recommend that for year group. We can use a name or description to capture that. And that way you can expose that field in your report and then export that straight through to Excel as well. So I hope that answers your question. Okay. Sorry,
Also, no, so that's mostly everything within the web app reflecting the livestock reconciliation report. Next, I might move to the mobile app, and that's where we'll just show all the natural increase records from joining through to weaning, which you will do on your web app. And I will also make mention that on the livestock rec report, the columns as we're going through, that they can be, which ones can be also done on the web and mobile. But I might stop share here if we don't have any questions relating to this and flick over to the mobile app.
We have one more, Jody. would you mind just running through again, just quickly, how to do the predefined management tags? Can you just step through that again?
Yeah, absolutely. This is actually one of my favorite features. So we come down to account, we go to farm management, we'll go into the farm that we're going to select, drop down edit, and it's in settings. So this is where we also did the animal units. So down the bottom, we've got our mob management tags, and we'll tick use predefined management tags and enter in what you see fit. It's also a really great field and feature to use, obviously, because you have this selection to use a drop down. There's no typing involved when you're out in the paddock, and also spelling errors, which may interrupt and merge, and will eliminate any human error that way. So hopefully that has played through quite slowly and be able to follow that one there.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jody. And if anyone does want to follow that again, there are articles covering that in our help center as well, which sort of step through that in a step-by-step process as well. But thanks, Jody. I think that's all for the questions on there. Someone's also asked, though, while you're changing over to your mobile app, if the ideas portal is going to be coming back to the website. Absolutely. Yep. We've had some internal changes to revamp that system and process for us, but it's going to come back bigger and better, where you'll have more insights into what is coming down the track with AgriWebb feature releases, and also an ideas portal for customers and clients to suggest feature ideas that we can build into AgriWebb. So hopefully we're providing the best features we can. So thank you for that question. Thanks, Jody.
Awesome. Okay, so now we are on our web app. So as mentioned, all our natural increase records from joining through to weaning, I will demonstrate just here. So starting off with joining, to create a joining record, a bull, a ram, or a heifer or a cow, a movement record needs to occur. So for this instance, I'm going to move my mob of 2 bulls here into my paddock where my cows are. And that's simply done by a movement record. And this will automatically initiate a start of a joining period. So all we need to select is the date and the mobs being moved, and check that the paddocks we have got correct, and save. So now we will be able to see in the cows details in the history that we have created a joining record today, and the ongoing join will occur until we remove the bull or ram out of the cow, heifer, or ewe mob. So that is automatically initiated when we create a movement record. So all movement records are required to be done on your mobile app. So the next step in the sort of reproduction cycle may be a scanning record, which I'll just quickly touch on. So this mob of ewes that I've got here, I'll go to view details, come down to more down the bottom, and then we see the scan option. So we might have already taken out the rams, or the rams are still in there, but we have performed scanning. This is where we have the option to either manually put in our count, or we can launch our pregnancy counter and do it as we are going. And then for this step, this is where we may then apply our management tag record, which we will draft our ewes off into singles, twins, dry.
Jody, while you're there, Caroline's asked a question around a joining record. She says, or asks, does a joining record produce a calving or lambing begin date? Now, I imagine that's, Caroline, what you mean is getting to sort of forecasting when that mob is going to be calving or lambing down. Jody, can you fill us in on that?
Yeah, so joining record will only show the date that the bull went in and the bull went out. So that period of joining. At the moment, we don't forecast in our planner, which is a feature that will be coming, that will actually help to plan these events that you can see that might be calving or lambing. So at the moment, it won't prompt you or say you're expecting your first lamb at X date. It is certainly something within the production planner or organisational calendar that we would love to offer to you guys as well.
And that is something that we have had in the past that we're going to be putting a lot more work into, as well as that operational planner that Jody mentioned, so that we can sort of forecast those dates in the future. So that's definitely on the roadmap to be done in time. While you're running through that, Jody, I just see a question from Ray as well. He asked, do you have any suggestions in managing mismuster or long tails in the reconciliation process that we can take offline if you like? But Ray, I might just quickly answer that. That's obviously, I think, a challenge that's a lot more prevalent in the north with cattle producers and sort of larger scale country up there. Something I see quite often with my clients. And one thing I do recommend is to establish a small paddock off to the side of your map. And when you do that, make sure that you set the area of that paddock to 0 so that it doesn't offset your overall land size. And then I usually establish that paddock as either a missed muster paddock or a discrepancies paddock, reconciliation paddock, whatever you want to call that. And so when you are mustering, and if you find that you're down numbers, then you can obviously drag numbers out of the paddock that you have mustered, where those cattle are missing from, and drag that into your discrepancies paddock. And that way you know that those cattle haven't been found in the paddock, and you can understand where they should be, where they should belong. And if you wanted to, you can then start to write off your numbers at the end of the year from that discrepancies paddock, so you're not upsetting your books. And probably actually something to mention there as well, Jody, we often see customers using the recount record. So when they do have varying numbers in the paddock, they'll use recount. But I'd actually recommend not doing that and having cattle in a reconciliation or discrepancies paddock, so that you don't have great fluctuations in your livestock reconciliation or essentially your inventory of your livestock. It's important not to do that, so you're not throwing your valuation out. But thanks, Ray. Yep, I'll touch base with you in the coming days. We can work around that one. Thanks, Jody.
Yeah, great hot tip there, Munro, with minimizing too many edits if the stock is still on hand. Okay, so I just wanted to show you, we're in the mob details page. In the history, we can see that pregnancy scan that we've applied, and it will also list your percentage there once you click into it. And also for this mob, it was only 150 singles. So the next step is a marking record. So this is how we create offspring linked to the ewe or cow. So we're going to go back into view details, come down to more, and mark. So we're going to select the date, the option to mark all maternal mobs in this paddock. So this, if you have 2 lots of mobs with different tag colors listed separately here, is where you can unselect that and only tick a certain mob that you wish to apply the marking record to. But I'm going to leave it ticked. I've only got 1 mob, but they're all going to apply the marking record to. We're going to go next. So this is where we can select to create a single grouped mob, or if we deselect that, we have the option to list them as use rams or wethers here. So I'm going to select them all as create a single mob group because I am still running them all together. Their date of birth is where we can backdate. We set that, and also we need to pop in our number of head. Pop across, we'll go next. And this is where we pop in our details that will list the mobs for the mob details. So we can name our DSE rating, our average weight, and our ear tag color, where the age pops up also. So as you can see here, these are the required fields to create a mob. Breed, name, DSE, average weight, and ear tag color are all required fields. So I'm going to cancel out of that. And as we can see here, this is how it will list, because I've applied a marking record to these ewe lambs, and now they have their crossbred lambs at foot. So they are listed here as two separate mobs because they are running separately, but they haven't applied a marking record as yet to the a weaning record, sorry, to the lambs. Therefore, their age class is still lambs. So for this mob, I am going to wean. I'm going to come down to view details, more, and we've got the wean button here. So this is where we will select our date of weaning, and if we want to split mixed sex mob into separate groups, and it will give us the option to pop the mob sizes in there. We'll go next. And then this is where we can change the name if required for the mob, the DSE rating as they're getting older and heavier, our average weight, and also the paddock that we are going to wean them off into. So we've got our drop-down list here that we can select our paddock. And then save. So this will automatically update the lamb's age class to weaners. So I've just gone through the steps, joining, scanning, marking, weaning, and age class, which we also went through on the web. But if we did want to update a mob's age class, we would tap on the mob, view details, come down to more. We'll go to edit. And this is where we can select to apply a management tag on the mobile app and change the age class. So that's all we were going to go through today on the mobile app that leads and pulls through to your livestock reconciliation report. We have saved the transactional records, which include death, sale, purchase, and transfers on and off farm for our next webinar.
Terrific. Thanks, Jodie. That's been fantastic. Lots of good questions and activity there from the audience. We had another comment come through saying that what we touched on there before with the mismuster paddock is a standard process for them, where if they do have some cattle in that mismuster paddock, if they've done a bangtail round, for example, and they find some longtails in the paddock, they can then draw them from that mismuster paddock and back into the rotation and the location they should be in. But I wanted just to add to that too, this has all been focused on our mob management system, but with our individual animal management system, if you do have those discrepancies, you can actually leave the individuals in the paddock, so you know the location they should be in and what numbers should be in that paddock. And then if you have done a bang tail, for example, and the end of the year comes time to write some animals off, you can do a quick filter on time since seen. So if you want to write animals off that haven't come to the yards for the past 2 years, you can easily do a filter on that and then start to write off those animals. If they're just cheeky old bullocks that come back in next round, then you can easily reinstate them as well back into AgriWebb, even if you've killed them off. So thank you for those points. I think we've got through most of the questions for now. So if no one's got anything else, I think that's been fantastic. Jody, thank you for running us through all of that. Thank you all for your questions, and thank you all very much for joining us again today. Looking forward to next week and finishing off with those transactional records. And again, a huge thank you to Anna Appleton for joining us today from up in Queensland. We did have a few slight technical difficulties there with some service, but we got through it in the end, and it was really interesting to hear from her. So thank you, Anna. But that's all from us. So thank you all again, and look forward to seeing you next week.